Hey guys, welcome back to another explanation video here from DAVAN. This is our latest sheet, the STOCKFLOW. It's a sheet that we're super excited to share with you today.
Yeah, this is the sheet that we would use on a weekly basis to make informed decisions on how to run our Amazon business.
There are so many things when you're running your Amazon business that you have to balance. How much stock do you currently have? How many do you have to order? What is the lead time? What is your available units at Amazon? Should you be running PPC and pushing PPC on a certain product? So all of these things we had to get a good overview on, and that is why we built the STOCKFLOW.
Yeah, so let's walk through the sheet right now. It's very simple. You just have to follow the steps that appear on screen. So we're going to take you through those steps right now.
But before we do that, don't forget, you can always click this link here to find our website, join our Facebook group here where we'll answer any of your questions. And if you're already on YouTube, this might be kind of weird, but you can click the YouTube link and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
I think they probably are on YouTube right now, so just find the subscription button down below.
So when you first open the Excel file, you're going to get a window looking like this. It'll ask you if you'd like to enable the macros. Macros are super important. They're basically mini applications that we built into the sheet to allow for the sheet to automate a lot of the processes. And it's essentially where all the magic happens. Now, if you're using a PC, it might look slightly different. If for whatever reason you can't figure it out, just do a quick Google on how do I enable my macros in Excel. So we're going to go ahead and enable the macros now so we can get started.
So when you open the sheet, you're going to be presented with an option to update now. So let's go ahead and click that. The first tab that you're going to be brought to is the sales trend tab. This is super important, and you have to take your time to build up your own sales trends for each of your products. And we're going to show you how to do that.
So before filling in the peak data here in this tab, we actually want to walk you through the guide first. The guide will be visible for you guys as well. So while you're working with the sheet, if you forget, you don't have to rewatch this video. You can just switch to the tab at the bottom. Now, some general stuff for all of our Excel sheets. As you guys probably know, all blue cells can be edited. Let's go down to building your sales trends so we can have a look at what we mean by defining our sales trends.
So when we talk about a sales peak, what we're talking about is an increase in sales that's defined by your peak, shown here, over your baseline. And we talk about baseline a lot. It's essentially the normal amount of units you would sell per day on a non-peak day. So that's shown here as your baseline. The start date is the starting date when sales start to pick up for a given holiday. And the peak date is the date where you have your peak sales, kind of self-explanatory.
Now, if you've never sold through a holiday yourselves, you may wonder, well, how am I supposed to know? What is my baseline? How big is the peak going to be? When do sales actually start ramping up? And the nice thing is you can actually get that information from your competitors, because what we notice is that the peak is essentially a marketplace trend, right? So that's what we're trying to figure out is what is the market going to do during a holiday? So if we go down here, we'll show you an example on how to build your own holiday peak using Helium 10.
So here's some data that we pulled from X-Ray on a competitor that sold last year during Christmas 2021. And we want to get the numbers to build our own sales trend from this data. So you can see here, this competitor had a baseline sale of about 127 units a day. And that went up to a maximum peak of 1,875 units during the Christmas period. The Christmas peak started on November 1st, and their peak date was on December 17th. So that's all the data that we need to now go and build our own sales trend.
And then we made it very easy for you guys. We put in a little calculate multiplier calculator there. Just go ahead and put in the numbers. You'll enter 1875 as the peak units, the base of 127, and we see that the peak actually has a multiplier of 14.8. And you might be thinking, yeah, but I'm not selling 127 units a day, so can I use this information? You can't, because all we're trying to determine is what does a multiplier for the holiday Christmas look like on Amazon? And if a main competitor has a baseline of 127 units and he manages to get all the way up to 1,875 on the biggest day, that is the multiplier we're looking for. And then we're going to apply that to your actual sales data later.
Now, we recommend doing this analysis for at least 3 competitors, so that you're not just relying on one data set. Power in numbers. So using this data, we are going to go back to the sales trend tab, and we're going to enter in our peak name of Christmas, the start date of November 1st, the peak sales date of December 17th. Now note that this is not actually the day that Christmas falls on, but actually, 8 days earlier. That's because the peak sales date occurs well before the holiday. So just make sure you're not entering in December 25th, but the peak sales date of December 17th. And finally, we would need our multiplier that we just calculated of 14.8. A couple things to note when you're doing this analysis of competitor data. You want to be looking at clean data sets. So if you're looking at X-ray sales data, you want to make sure that you're avoiding anomalies or things that look very strange. For example, here's a competitor who was building up during the peak, but then clearly went out of stock before coming back in stock. You do not want to use this data. Similarly, here's a competitor that stocked out on December 2nd and his sales tanked. Again, do not use this data. And finally, here's a weird anomaly where either they went out of stock or their listings were suppressed, something. But again, when you see this kind of stuff, avoid this data and just stick to nice, clean data sets.
So then now we're back on the sales trends tab. We're going to be able to, and that we understand how to actually, define our sales trends, the peak names, the multipliers. Let's go ahead and enter some of these. So here for the peak, we'll enter Christmas. We saw based on the competitors that their sales started to ramp up around November 1st. The peak sales day was December 17th. And the multiplier that our calculator calculated was 14.8. Okay, let's go ahead and enter in another peak. So over here, the next holiday that we're going to have is Valentine's Day. We noticed that the Valentine's Day sales started at around, February 1st, 2023. And that we're expecting the sales day to end at around February 11th. Now on the guide tab, we showed you that there's a multiplier calculator. We can actually go over here and put it in. So what we want to do is now determine what is the biggest peak units. And we see here our competitor that we've filtered through. They do about 1,300 on the biggest sales day. And the baseline units for them was only around 103. That'll create a multiplier, if you hit enter, of 12.6. So on Valentine's Day, we can expect that our product has a multiple of 12.6.
So following the same system, we're going to go ahead and enter in some more holiday peaks. There we go. Now, before we fill in the multipliers for these holidays, we have to consider our product catalog a little bit.
Exactly, because for this demonstration, we're going to pretend that, we sell holiday gifts, but we also have school supplies and we sell Halloween decorations and costumes. And all these different product types obviously follow different trends throughout the year. So we've allowed you on the sheet to go ahead and actually enter up to 3 different trend lines, which you can actually rename over here. We're going to go ahead and name those holidays, school, and Halloween. So now that we've entered in the trend names, let's go ahead and fill in the multipliers for each holiday.
So for Mother's Day, for our holiday gifts, we see a multiplier of 15. Now, our holiday gifts don't follow a back to school. They don't have a back to school peak. So we're just going to leave this blank. It's okay. Halloween, again, no peak for our holiday gifts. But Christmas, we're going to enter in the same multiplier that we calculated for Christmas 2022 because we have no better data to go on right now.
Now, here's the thing. After this Christmas, we might actually be able to go back in and update the Christmas 23 peak based on our actual sales, because the one for 2022 we base on our competitors. And that's the beauty of the sheet, is that you can always come in and edit your peaks as you learn a bit more about your niche and your competition.
So let's finish off our holiday peaks by entering in the multipliers for our school supplies and our Halloween products.
Okay, so it's all filled out. Now that's not a typo, guys. Just a quick disclaimer here. These numbers we're using for demonstration purposes. Ryan and I actually just looked up some Halloween costumes and saw that, they sell 2 to 3 a day. And then it goes up to like 1,300, which is crazy. So we had entered in the 270 multiplier. However, guys, do your own research, look at your competitive landscape, look at your products, use your own sales history if you have it. Now, we don't just do holiday peaks, they're also shopping events. So let's go ahead and take a look at what shopping events are.
That's right. And we define the difference between holiday peaks and shopping events in the guide. So if we go over there, you can see holiday peaks follow a standard growth up until the peak day, and then they slowly decline. Common examples are Mother's Day or Christmas. Shopping events are a bit different. They're an immediate jump in sales that's sustained, and then they drop off once the shopping event is done. you're thinking things like Cyber Monday, Black Friday, Prime Days, and promotional discounts. If you're running a coupon for a week or two, then that is a shopping event where you see consistent increased sales. So keeping those differences in mind, let's go back to our sales trends and enter in some shopping events.
To enter the shopping events, it's identical to how you enter the holiday peaks, so we've already gone ahead and done it. Now the nice thing is you can actually see these trends come alive. Just go over here to the left, click the minus button, that'll collapse the rows and you get to visualize them.
So as we scroll down through the sheet, you're going to see your holidays actually come to life on these sales trends. For example, here's the Prime Day that we just entered in October. It becomes grayed out to show you that there's a holiday or a shopping event going on here. And you can see the peaks that you entered. Here we're into Christmas now. You can see the green line that represents today. And you can see Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and Christmas all in your 3 sales trends. So for our holiday, our school supplies, and our Halloween products.
Okay, so let's actually go ahead and confirm these trend lines so we can continue with uploading some reports into our sheet. To confirm it, just click the blue button, Confirm Trends to Update. Remember, it's not locked in forever. You can come back at any time and we can update these peaks as they go.
The next tab that we take you to is your Settings tab. This is where you're going to first enter in your SKU data. So as it says up here, step 2, enter SKU data. I'm going to click this button and that will unlock this range of cells here where I can enter in my SKU names. I can give them a nickname, assign them to a parentage, and then finally assign them to a sales trend. So let's go ahead and do that now.
Okay, when you're done entering your SKUs, providing them, and the only thing you have to do is actually enter the SKU and a sales trend. So if you don't have parentages, you don't have to assign them to one. And if you don't want to give it a nickname, you also don't have to give it a nickname. So let's go ahead and confirm the SKU now. That's it. The next thing to do is to start importing some Amazon reports.
Now for step 3, we're going to ask you to download and import your Restock report. And we've made it very simple for you. All you have to do is click the link here. That will take you directly to your Seller Central account where you can download your Restock report. Just make sure that you're logged into the brand for the report that you want to pull.
So when you get to Seller Central, super easy, just click the button that says Generate Report. You're going to have to wait about a minute, sometimes a minute and a half. It should automatically refresh. And once that button says download, then just go ahead and download the report.
Once the report is downloaded, we're going to go back to the sheet and click to import. You're going to find your Restock report. Luckily, it's named Restock report, so it's easy to find. And we're just going to click open. Once it's been fully imported, which should just take a few seconds, you'll get a message and you can just click OK.
So for step 4, it's essentially the same as step 3, except for this time we're going to download and import the All Orders report. So once again, click here, link to Seller Central. Once at Seller Central, just go ahead and change the event date to last 30 days. And then request the download. Depending on how many sales you actually did in the last 30 days, this might take a little bit longer than the Restock report. Once done, click download. Okay, now let's click step 2, click to import. Go ahead and find the file in your downloads folder. Now the All Orders report has this weird number always. You'll identify it because it has a TXT. And one trick, just see when you added it if it matches the download time when you hit download. Okay, then you'll get this notification that all your orders have been imported successfully.
So the first time that you import the All Orders report, there may be some dates missing. And those are shown in red here. And you've gotten this error message that tells you that you need to check to see if you have any red dates. If so, we just need to go back to the All Orders report and download a report that covers those dates. So I can see I still need to cover October 10th to October 16th. So I'm going to go back to the All Orders page, manually enter in that date range and import that as well. So would you like to import now? I'm going to say yes.
And let's go ahead and actually go to Seller Central and download those dates.
So to get those dates, I'm just going to go to the dropdown, say exact dates, and enter in October 10th to October 16th, and that should cover those missing dates.
Perfect. One thing to note for entering exact dates is that Amazon will actually not allow you to pull a report that is longer than 30 days. So just to demonstrate, if I start September 1st, you see that it's all going to be grayed out. The maximum I can do is 30 days. Everything else will be grayed out.
With that second report downloaded, let's import it. Here it is. and click open. Now you can see that the import is complete and all the dates are green. We're good to continue.
Okay, and that's it. Now we finally reached the last step to update the stock flow. We're going to have to update our upstream inventory. And what do we mean by that, Ryan?
Well, that's a great question, Dave. Let's just click the Update Upstream Inventory button here, and that'll take us to the tab. Now, if this is your first time visiting the Upstream Inventory tab, it's going to ask you, would you like us to autofill your SKUs? This is going to take the SKUs that you just entered in your Settings tab and automatically enter them here in your inventory for you. So let's say yes.
That's a really nice feature, Ryan.
So nice.
Love it. All right, so the upstream inventory is essentially the inventory that is not yet at Amazon, but we still have it somewhere, right? So some of these SKUs, they may not all be at Amazon. Some might be sitting at a 3PL, at your own warehouse. And we want to be able to tell the sheet that we have some of that inventory somewhere other than Amazon.
Now there's 3 places that your upstream inventory could be located. It could be in storage, it could be in transit, for example, on a ship, or it could be in production at your supplier. We've also given you a place to input your COGS per unit. This will come in handy later.
So one thing to note on the sheet is that the units in transit, super important, are not those units that are inbound to Amazon. The sheet will automatically account for those units that are inbound to Amazon on the reports that we pulled before. So this is really just on the units that are headed towards your 3PL. Now for the rest of the numbers, all you have to do is enter in the quantity. So it's very self-explanatory. For each SKU, how many of those do you have? And I think this is a good place for us to explain what the playgrounds are at the bottom.
That's right. Now, because I want to enter in units that I have at 3PL, I might have to pull reports from my 3PL and get those numbers in here. So that's why we've given you these 3 playground tabs at the bottom. These are blank sheets that you can work with. So I might download the report from my 3PL, copy and paste it in here so that I have access to those numbers right in front of me.
Right, and those numbers we can now enter into the upstream inventory. If you guys want and are a bit more advanced, you can actually create a VLOOKUP. It's basically there for you to do whatever you want with. Don't forget, guys, another cool feature, anything in blue you can edit. So if you actually, instead of calling it 3PL1 and you just want to assign it a name to your 3PL, as you guys know, we love Anthony. We use Anthony all the time. We would put Anthony's name up here, and then we would write how many units we have of that SKU in there. What's important is to keep the sheet up to date as well, right? Because as you send in units, let's say to Amazon, as you produce more units, as the units move from transit into your 3PL, you want to keep the sheet up to date. It's a nice overview to know where are my units.
With the data all entered, let's go ahead and confirm the inventory has been updated by clicking this button. Now, before diving into the dashboard, just a reminder that you can go back and change any of those settings we just went through at any time. So for example, you can go back to your sales trends and edit your holiday peaks or your shopping events. Just make sure to click to update the timestamp here. This just lets anyone else who's using the sheet, for example, VAs or your partners, that you've updated the sheet at a certain time. You can also go into your settings and you can edit your SKUs. Just click here to edit your SKUs. And once you're done editing, you can click confirm.
You can also upload new reports, which will essentially take you through the same flow that we just took you through. And finally, if you want to update your upstream inventory, go ahead, fill in new numbers, and click to update timestamp. Now, this doesn't actually do anything other than print the time that you were working on it. So it's just a manual button. But Ryan and I, because we were a team working together, it was always super helpful. If I were to open up our sheet, I would know, okay, Ryan already updated these numbers. It's just a nice way to log any change. Okay, so let's actually get started on the dashboard.
So here we are on the dashboard, and it's a lot to take in at the very beginning, but we're going to break it down for you.
So on the left side of the sheet, you can see it auto-populated your product name. This is the nickname that you gave. If you had left it blank, it would actually show the SKU name. Then it has the ASIN and the SKU. Over here, the sheet will show you your total sales. Total sales are made up of FBM sales as well as FBA sales. It'll give you an overview of the FBA inventory that you have and how many we recommend or the sheet recommends to send to Amazon. It'll also give you a very nice overview of the upstream inventory that we just entered on the last tab. And finally, it'll actually recommend certain units that you might have to produce to stay in stock.
Let's talk about how this sheet works. First, we look at your historical sales from the last 30 days. These are actual real numbers based on the reports that you just uploaded to the STOCKFLOW, and the date range will always be shown here in this yellow window. Now, using the reports that you've uploaded, the sheet will calculate what the baseline sales are for each SKU. That is, the number of units that SKU sells on a normal given day. Using that baseline, it'll then forecast ahead a certain number of days that you can specify up here, for example, 45 days into the future, and it will calculate your forecasted sales based on the sales trends and the multipliers that you just built.
The nice thing is we can also define a buffer to say we're not 100% certain about the future, so we'd like to add a 10% buffer to that projected trend line that I made, just to make sure I stay in stock, for example. So Ryan and I, we would always put between 10 and 15% personally, but you can put any number that you'd like.
Now, diving into the data, a lot of this is self-explanatory. Just look at the column headers up top to know what you're looking at. For example, for each SKU, it shows you what your last 30 days revenue was, and it's showing you the estimated next 45 days because that's the date range that we entered for the future. It also shows your last 30 days units sold, your estimated next 45 days units sold.
What we also like to look at to get a very quick overview of our catalog is what is the percentage of revenue of our SKU within the last 30 days, for example. So we can just click the green arrows here. It sorts that column for you. So if I click here, I'll see that 16% of our revenue in the last 30 days came from SKU number 6.
Moving further down the sheet, you can see a breakdown of your FBM sales as well as your FBA sales.
Now, if you don't sell FBM, go look for the minus sign on top. This will actually collapse the FBM columns. You can always bring it back by hitting the plus. That's a general rule for any of these grouping buttons in Excel.
For now, let's just focus on our FBA sales. Now, at a glance, you can see that our baseline sales at FBA are 151 units. And you can even see the breakdown of each SKU's baseline here in this column. Some SKUs, if I sort, I can see have a baseline of 0, and there could be several reasons for this.
One of those reasons might be that you just launched a new product and there's no historical sales data for it yet. Or you're recently out of stock and the baseline shows 0. Is there any other reason, Ryan, why it might say 0?
I mean, the product could just suck.
Right, which would actually print a 0 as well. So it does require a little manual thinking, and that's why we have this column called manual right next to it, which allows you to enter in a manual baseline. So if you're out of stock and you knew that the baseline historically for that product is maybe 10 a day, then go ahead, enter 10 a day, and the sheet will work as if you sold 10 a day. If you're launching a new product and you're not quite sure what the baseline will be, you can base it off competitors, base off the previous launches that you've had, and you might put in a conservative number of about 2 to 3 a day, let's say, and we'll enter 3 a day here, 2, 3, and that's it. So now we can see it'll say override on it. I know it's a manual input, but at least I have some data on how to forecast it without having historical sales.
Now that our baselines have either been calculated or manually overridden, let's have a look at some actionable insights that the sheet tells us. At the top of the sheet, we highlight 2 very important numbers. The number of units the sheet predicts you're going to sell over the next 45 days, as well as the total number of units you have at FBA. And as you can see, there's a little bit of a discrepancy here. We have just over 47,000 units that we're expecting to sell. However, we only have just over 36,000 at FBA.
We can also see that our earliest out of stock date is December 2nd. So let's take a look at our out of stock dates on a SKU level. To do that, let's first sort the SKUs by the estimated units we're expecting to sell in the next 45 days. I want to see our best sellers right here. Now you can see on the column next to it, the total at FBA will actually go red if I don't have enough units to cover my estimated sales. Next to it, you'll see the number of days of stock remaining and the out of stock date. Now there's a lot of data and many different strategies on how you may want to restock your inventory at FBA, depending on so many different factors such as restock limits or lead time to FBA, depending on what season you are. Ryan and I will probably upload different strategies, videos on what kind of strategies we used to do. But for now, let's sort by out of stock date. So by sorting by out of stock date, I can actually see the closest out of stock. So here we saw the earliest out of stock SKU will be December 2nd. So I have 16 days of stock remaining. And that's SKU number 5 right here. So what I want to make sure is I want to make sure that I can replenish that to Amazon. And that's where the next section comes in.
Now we're coming to the heart of the sheet. And this is where Dave and I would use this sheet weekly to know how many units we have to send to Amazon. Right now, the sheet is recommending that we replenish 39 SKUs, totaling 14,485 units. And I notice we need to enter in a proper carton number. So by default, we say 1 unit per carton, but you can change this at any time. So let's say that we have 16 units per carton. Now, this will apply 16 units per carton to all the SKUs. If one of your SKUs has a different case pack quantity, you can go to that SKU individually and type in its units per carton.
It's nice knowing you got to send in 14,488 units, but do you even have that many in production or at your 3PL? Well, that's where the upstream inventory comes in. So it's nice to stay organized using the sheet. And here you can see everything in a quick overview. Here you can see how many you have in storage for that SKU, how many you have in transit, and how many you have in production. And this information is going to be super important too.
Let's go back to the send to Amazon recommendations. And let's look at the top SKU here, SKU number 5. It's recommending that we have to send in 896 units, but we only have 512 at our storage facility. And we don't have any more upstream units in transit or in production. So it's colored red as a warning that we need to manufacture more of this SKU.
Let's look at these 2 SKUs. Here, they're colored yellow. Yellow means that even though you have to send in 320, that you don't have any at your 3PL, or you don't have enough at your 3PL. But you do have some upstream, either in transit or in production.
And the final case, when a number has no color, when it's white, that means it's fine. You have enough units at your 3PL to cover this shipment. So to summarize, white means you have enough, yellow means you don't have enough at your 3PL, but you have enough upstream, and red, you don't have enough upstream, you need to manufacture more.
Now, after using the sheet for several months, you're going to notice that all of these numbers will always stay in white because the stock flow will ensure that you order or place orders well ahead of time and that you never run into an out of stock situation again.
That's right. If you're just new to using this sheet, it's normal to see some SKUs colored in red here. But let's dive deeper into the actions you can take.
So let's go back to the beginning of the dashboard where we can actually play with some really cool features that we added into it. One is a product name. If you click it, it'll take you to your Amazon listing. Next to the SKU, you'll see a little triangle. If you click that, it'll actually take you to the SKU page on Seller Central. And our favorite feature is actually this parentage. Remember on the settings tab, you're able to assign different SKUs to different parentages? Well, you can select them here, and that'll clean up the sheet and only show you, for example, the Halloween costumes right here. There might be times where you just want to look at one SKU at a time or in different groupings than the parentages that you've predefined. In that case, just click Manual SKU Entry. That'll unlock it, and you can come in here and enter in whichever SKUs you would like. So for example, let's take a look at SKU 46 and SKU 48 only. The sheet will only recalculate once you click Confirm. Now we're getting the data grouped together for SKU 46 and 48. All right, let's take a look at 2 final use cases that Ryan and I would often look at. One of them, well, let's reselect all SKUs first. We're going to look at all our SKUs, so just select all SKUs, it'll populate. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to forecast range and I'm going to say, show me only the next 14 days. And what I want to do is I want to see, do I have enough units that are available at FBA? So let's go over here to our FBA sales. Right above FBA inventory, you're going to see this plus sign right here. If I click it, I can see the total units at FBA. Where are they in the pipeline? The first thing I want to do is I want to sort by available units. Now, you can see any numbers that go red might cause an issue because in the next 14 days, I'm expecting to sell more than what I have available at FBA. They might be inbound, but they're not available yet. Let's take a closer look at one SKU in particular. The SKU I'd love to focus on now is SKU 22. As you can see, we're estimating that in the next 2 weeks, for SKU 22, we're going to need 113 units. Total at FBA, it says 643, so we might think, hey, we're totally fine. But let's take a look at where are those units, the 643. Only 66 of those are currently available for sale with the Prime badge. There's some in FC transfer, and there's 463 inbound. From these that are inbound, only 31 have been received. The other ones are only shipped, so they're not even being received yet. And this is a really good example of how you can use this sheet to adjust your selling strategy. You may not want to push sales as hard right now because you might run out of available units, and then your shipping time to the customer might be extended to, a week, or may ship in the next 2 weeks.
How about instead of looking short term, we look long term? So instead of 14 days, I'm going to put in 180 days, half a year. Now, just something to look out for. If we're going to be forecasting 180 days into the future, essentially until May 15th next year, we need to verify that we have sales trends and holidays in place up until that date. And in this case, we do. So we're okay to forecast that far into the future.
You may be wondering, why do we want to forecast 180 days into the future? Well, the reason is we got to place purchase orders, and we never want to run out of stock. We don't want to be surprised and place a purchase order too late. So if we enter 180 days and then scroll over, the sheet will actually recommend how many we have to order.
So here what we're seeing is the number of units the sheet is recommending that we produce to ensure we can get through the next 180 days. Just make sure that your numbers up here for your lead time, your MOQ, and your units per carton are accurate. And then have a look at what the sheet is recommending that you produce.
Now remember, you can also override these on a SKU level in case you're using 2 different manufacturers that have a different lead time or MOQ.
So let's walk through the numbers. For each SKU, you can see the number of units required and the optimized quantity based on your MOQ and units per carton. In cases where your MOQ has not been reached yet, it's colored in orange. Next to that, you have the number of cartons to order for each SKU, the cost per SKU based on the COGS that you entered earlier, and finally, the date that you need to place this order by.
Now, the order by date might be in red if it's already a bit too late. You should have placed that order, right? And this is based on the lead time that you entered before.
Finally, if you scroll all the way to the end of this sheet, you see a manual purchase order builder. This is your own purchase order builder to play with. So you can just enter in anything you want here, and a few basic calculations will be done if you'd rather build it yourself.
And that's it. Your stock flow is fully optimized. Now, the next time you go to open the sheet, it'll actually give you the option to update later. And it'll take you straight to the dashboard. Now remember, these numbers are only as accurate as the numbers that you've entered into it. So make sure that from time to time, you verify that your sale trends are up to date and that your upstream inventory is up to date. So remember, if you ever need help to optimize your strategy, then feel free to reach out by clicking this button below, because we'd love to chat. Thanks again for watching, guys. We really hope you enjoyed the stock flow.
Have fun with it, and let us know what you think in the comments below.